Big news from Peloton today. They have finally begun pre-orders for the highly anticipated Peloton Row. And so now we have a price, a rough delivery date, exact specs and dimensions. We know what the UI will look like and all of the features like the new form assist, personal pace targets, as well as some huge updates to the Peloton guide, which we'll go over at the end. For those of you new to the channel, this is Colin with Connect the Watts. Make sure to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with the latest in connected fitness tech and to be able to see our upcoming review of the Peloton Rower. And as we talk about the Peloton Row, let me know in comments whether or not you will be getting one. So of course, the first thing we have to discuss here is the price. The rumors were that the Peloton Row was going to be priced at $3,195, and that in fact is true, which not only makes the Peloton Row the most expensive rower, but $700 more than the most expensive rower and over 3 times the cost of the current most popular rower, the Concept C2. And we're going to talk more about that price in a little bit, but first let's get a bit more into the specs and features that will be available on the Peloton Row. So in terms of size, the Peloton Row is going to be 7 feet 10 inches long and 24 inches wide. This makes it the longest rower I have ever seen. And to give you some insight, one of the complaints many people have about the original Hydro rower was how long it is, which is why they made their new rower, the Hydro Wave, a bit shorter. Well, the original Hydro rower is 86 inches long and the Peloton Row is 8 inches longer than that at 94 inches. So you'll definitely want to measure your ceiling height if you plan on storing this thing upright. It is also the heaviest rower at just a bit over 156 pounds, which is 11 pounds heavier than the very heavy steel original Hydro. Though even with that weight, the max user weight is only 300 pounds, which is one of the lowest I have ever seen rated on a rower, as generally they can support much heavier weights than bikes or even treadmills. For example, the Averon rower supports weights up to like 500 pounds. But anyways, the height and weight helps explain why there's a handle halfway down that rower, so it is much more manageable to be able to move the rower upright and to be able to bring it down. And when you want to move it upright, there is a button located under the screen that'll allow you to fold that screen down, and then once upright, there's an included wall anchor that has a tether and carabiner that you loop through that handle to ensure that the rower doesn't fall on any kids or anything like that. So the Peloton Row will use smart magnetic resistance, and similar to Hydro, it won't adjust or anything during your workouts, which is actually a very good thing. As I've said many times before, you typically do not want the resistance adjusting on a rower during your workout, and often you don't need to ever have it adjusted at all, as the resistance should be more based on how hard you're driving with your legs and pulling that handle. That said, the resistance, which is referred to as drag on the rower, is adjustable, but only suggested for those who have experience with rowing and have a better understanding about their specific drag preferences. The screen attached to the Peloton Rower is the same as those attached to the Peloton Bike Plus and the Peloton Tread. It's a 24-inch high-def touchscreen with front-facing speakers, and it's a very good-looking, high-quality screen. It does tilt 25 inches up or down and can rotate right or left 45 degrees to help make it easier to take workouts which take you off of the rower, such as boot camp, strength, or yoga classes. On the screen, when you're taking a Peloton rowing class, the layout will look very similar to the Peloton bike or tread, with the 3 primary metrics being your pace, which on a rower is measured in time per 500 meters. So in this picture, at this current pace, it'll take that user 2 minutes and 59 seconds to go 500 meters in distance. Then you have the stroke rate, which is the rate of your pulls, so how many pulls you are achieving per minute. And in the middle is your power output, and this is how Peloton measures performance on all of their devices for the leaderboard and personal records and such, which is interesting because it's used less traditionally on rowers compared to distance, but it actually gives you more and a lot better insight into your overall performance, so I like that they are sticking with that here. Now there are 2 big changes you can see here that we need to talk about. One is the suggested pace, because as you can see, there is a suggested pace range. And what is interesting about that is because the pace is going to be so different from one person to the next based on their size and fitness level, that Peloton is finally going to be giving customized pacing suggestions. So this is not the suggested pace by the coach, but the suggested pace for you individually. Now, from what I can tell, this is not going to be based on the rower learning or analyzing your fitness level or anything like that, but instead it looks like you'll simply be able to pick your own pace target level, choosing from levels 1 through 6, based on what tends to work best for you you and how you are feeling for that day. This is actually pretty big news even for those who aren't interested in the rower, because this change could easily be coming to the bike or tread next with their own suggested paces or power outputs. The other huge change here is the new form assist and form rating on the Peloton Row. So what this does is it'll provide on-screen feedback to highlight areas for improvement in real time. And again, from what I can tell, the way this works isn't through camera detection or computer vision or anything like that, but I believe the Peloton Row simply compares the speed and location of your seat versus the handle to help tell if you're pulling too early or too late, or possibly if the handle is being pulled too high or too low. And while not a perfect solution, this could definitely be a helpful tool for somebody who is just starting out. Now, while the Peloton Rower is available to order now, they are hoping to start shipping them out in December. And if you are hoping, like many people, to be able to take these Peloton classes on your Concept 2 or other rower, I have some bad news for you. Peloton has announced that they will not be putting their rowing content out on the Peloton app or Peloton bike or anything else besides the actual Peloton Row. So if you want to be able to take Peloton rowing classes without buying a Peloton rower, well, you're shit out of luck. Which personally I think is a shame, because while there are some very unique and very nice features on the Peloton Row, it's still going to be very hard to justify that $3,195 price, especially given how standardized rowers are. See, with indoor bikes, there's not really any standard when it comes to resistance measurements, so it can be pretty hard to follow along to a Peloton class without the actual Peloton bike. If you use another bike, you sort of have to guess how much resistance the instructor is asking you to use and make your own sort of adjustments. But with treadmills and rowers, the measurements are much more standardized. If you take a Peloton tread class, the incline percentage and speed are going to be the same regardless of the treadmill that you are using, making it a lot less necessary to use the actual Peloton tread. And the same is true for the rower, which again is probably why Peloton is not going to be allowing the rowing content to be used outside of the Peloton Row, and taking some of their best coaches like Adrian Williams and Matt Wilpers over to the rower to help entice people to bite the bullet and pay that very high price. Now, in addition to all of this, Peloton is also today going to be upgrading the Peloton Guide, which is their quote strength device, which upon launch seemed very limited with very little reason to get it as a movement tracker, because it was basically just that. It was a tracker to make sure you were alive and moving a little bit for the most part. Well, now the Peloton Guide will be getting automatic rep counting on certain classes each week, including 3 new collections that should be added today, and a new feature called the Weight Rack, which Peloton says will track, quote, the free weights in a member's house, and allows the guide to measure the total weight lifted in each movement of a workout to show strength progression over time, which I will definitely be doing another video on to test that out and its accuracy as well. And when that's done today, I'll be posting that here. So again, this is Colin with Connect the Watts. As always, thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.